So yeah, that was my chance to experiment with deep breath. And thank you for your patience, dear lady there. I appreciate it. Everyone in the room, thank you. Yeah, technology would be one of the places that reliably takes me to a place of, and then I have to find my little tools of relief. We were talking about laughter, we were talking about music, we were talking about nature, feet on the ground. All these things can help take us down from a stress place. Any other things? A granddaughter, a little baby. I love that. I mean, all I have to do is look at baby toes, much less touch them. So see some smiles.
You're so skeptical of the world. So we have to.
So your terrier dog is just like kind of goes nuts about everything, every sound, every whatever. That's funny. Well, but I love that your reaction then is to be amused versus some people are like, quit barking at that, right? So case in point, a lot of it is actually, it's so personal, how we choose to react, right? What we choose to think about the thing. There's a author, Byron Katie. It's confusing because first name Byron, last name Katie, but and she wrote a book called Loving What Is that I highly recommend. It's a very simple entry point into changing your relationship with stress or pain around a particular scenario or lots of them. But one of the questions that she asks as a part of this process is, who would you be without that thought? Whether it's this person hates me, that dog shouldn't be barking, the weather should be nicer, whatever the hell it is, right? And often people's response is, oh, well, I'd be happy or I'd be free. Those are the two most common responses, whether it was someone talking about, an abusive childhood or, something irritating at work, the full range. Who would you be without that thought? The answer is almost always free or happy. So something to dabble in as we move into autumn. And I like to work with themes. I've got a little autumn jazz playing. As we move into autumn, there's a very natural movement towards the energies, if you will, of the season supporting us in processing grief. And it does not mean you have to be sad or grief-filled the entire autumn, but it's more about recognizing that often we have unprocessed stuff and that autumn is a really lovely time to let that move and to create more space in our closets, our personal interior. And then, by the way, also a great time to start decluttering, am I right? Yeah. So anyway, hope you'll play with that. As we move into our physical practice here on the mat, inviting you to think about and notice where have you been aware of stagnation. Again, we've been doing all this fascia release work that might have put you in deep awareness of some congested places. We had somebody last week, you guys might remember Lisa, when we were doing the feet flex and the E version, she felt something release on the blade of her right foot that had been bothering her. She's been cycling a lot. She thought, oh, maybe it's my cycling shoes. But she did that and she felt something kind of go whoop and problem was solved. So exciting. Yeah. So, often we don't know how to remove or move stagnation. And that's why just having a commitment like you guys do to get to the mat and move is so key. But also that we're doing it in life off the mat, that we're taking deep breaths. That will move stagnation and congestion if we've been nervous, you name it. So it's just kind of critical that we're always practicing. We're never done. You're welcome. All right, let's come to our backs and we're going to place the block under the sacral triangle. So you're going to want to plant your feet, raise the hips, place the block under that sacral triangle, not higher. We don't want to end up in a big arch of the back. Actually, I want to let the lower back settle towards the floor. I've still got my knees and feet flat. To me, I prefer that starting point. And then after a few breaths, I'll often play the draping the body, legs straight and floppy. There's no alignment. And letting the whole front line now get a stretch. And you can even play with emphasizing that front line opening by pointing the toes and even occasionally reaching the chin up and back and then relaxing it off. Pointing the toes, reaching the chin up and back and relaxing it off. And if you can still stay there with comfort, please do. Let's use this time to ignite the biggest, juiciest breaths into our belly. Beautiful. I hear some people adding ujjayi. This would be a lovely time if you recognize any energy or stresses you want to move to do a few sighing breaths, inhaling slow, deep and wide. Ah. What is it like to be you today? Recognizing that we spend much of our life not even neutral and 180, we're often a little forward of that. I invite you to notice if this shape feels really welcome and nourishing. This is one I do frequently. I won't say every day. I almost always do it if I've been gardening, doing firewood, that kind of thing. If I start to feel that holding, gripping around the upper glute low back, this is my remedy. One of them. When you're complete, you can come off and bring both knees to belly, a nice tight little hug, rocking side to side. And I like noticing as I do that I get some contact of almost that kind of kidney zone and low back and hip connections. And especially if I let the knees go away from me and then draw them in more tightly, I can kind of communicate to different parts. And it may be that I'm tighter than most of you, but I almost always feel like, wow, that feels so good. Returning to center, remain a hold of the right leg or right knee as you extend your left leg in release wind pose. We're going to be going back and forth. So in the biggest, deepest breath you can, flex both heels as far away from each other as you can, left side, anchoring down. On your inhale, switch, hands around left knee, exhaling, reaching those heels as far away as you can. On the inhale, slow, deep and wide, switching. Exhaling, igniting that flexion, and again, anchoring down through the straight leg. Is there more? Big, slow inhale, we'll switch. We'll do this a few more times. You might have a light connection to the tongue, roof of the mouth. The next time you've got your right knee in, hold in release wind pose, and see if you can blossom a big breath into the lower belly. I'm hoping you might feel a stretch into that lower left abdomen. Neck is soft. Then we're going to inhale and take that right leg straight to the sky. Don't worry if it doesn't get straight, but have fun pointing and flexing. So you're creating this nice kind of flossing, lubricating experience in the front and back leg and the partnering muscle groups. And then see if you ignite your quadricep, the front of the thigh. Can you press your heel a little more towards the ceiling and get that leg straight? Even if you have to help hold it, see if you can get that knee to clicking. On your exhale, root the low back, and as you slowly descend that right leg, roll it side to side. Keep that core rooted. And then melting. Beautiful. Bring the left knee into the belly. We're going to hold. Again, heels flexing right thigh, igniting down. That's where I really get the stretch that comes into the hip flexors and sometimes even the psoas as I send deep breath down in. See if you can hug the knee a little tighter. No wings, no shrugs. So elbows in, shoulders down, neck soft. And then on a long inhale, extending that left leg and beginning that point and flex. Is this side different? And again, see if you can bend the knee, but then press with your quadricep towards the hamstring and see if you can get that knee to click into a straight position. I love this hamstring stretch where it's not weight bearing. it's powerful. You're making it powerful, but you're not in a forward fold, which can make it really difficult for those to sit tight. On your exhale, root and slowly descend, heels vigorously flexed, core rooted, and then reaching the floor and melting. Oh, lovely. We're going to reach our arms overhead, palms flexed. So it's like I'm trying to push the wall behind me. And actually, if you would take your feet out a little bit wider, and then see if you can flex your feet and rotate your toes in and out. And you could do the same thing with the hands. And then you might roll. So I'm just keeping my heels on the floor, but I'm rotating the rest of my foot, like I'm drawing circles with my toes. And so it'll make your knees move as well. All right. We're going to now bring those feet flat for a bridge pose. And we're going to do something a little bit different. First, just with your feet flat, hanging out there, if you want to either put the block between the thighs or imagine one, right? So we've got that nice anchoring in bridge pose. The arm position we're going to play with a moment is you're going to take your hands in prayer over your head, as if you're pointing your fingertips towards the wall behind you. And ever so slowly, like you're holding a piece of paper between your hands, so you're not gripping. Press your fingertips progressively towards the wall. See if you can get your arms to come in towards the ears. Then see if you can invite your hands towards the floor. So this is a pose we do standing as well, but it's a little easier here, right? You've got gravity helping you. Can you get your elbows straight? And if you can't, you can't. But we want to keep those hands connected and see if you can get elbows straight and then take a deep breath. So we were talking about stagnation, and I will say, if you cannot get your elbows straight here, if you can't get those shoulders to open fully, that's just telling you you've got some restriction through there that would be great to work on. All right, one more big inhale. Exhale, now bring your upper arms towards the floor, fingers towards the ceiling, and press the hips to bridge. And we're going to be doing this a couple times. Holding and bridge, and then a long inhale, raise the hips, send the knees away from you, the heart up and back. And then descend slowly, one rib at a time, really igniting that back. Inhale, we'll send the arms towards the wall behind, hands pressing paper. One more long inhale in that position. Squeeze that imaginary block. And on your exhale, belly to side, spine to floor, arms anchor by your sides. Raise those hips. Long inhale. Make sure you're keeping and anchoring in all four corners of the feet. So the inner and outer ball and the big toe, pinky, heels. Beautiful. Come slowly, slowly down, one rib at a time. Last time, we'll bring arms overhead, reaching. And if you can have the palms together and enjoy that, great. If this is just bothering your neck and you need to let the palms come apart and try and straighten the arms, go for that. Exhaling, anchor the upper arms, raise the hips, bridge pose. Last time here, good. We're going to add our foot hover, and I should have warned you that. So if you have a block between and you want to take it out, go for it. If your feet are more than 6 inches apart, bring them in. Yeah. Once those hips are up, I want you to lift one foot, literally just hovering off the floor like an inch. An inch. I should barely be able to see that one knee is higher than the other. Yeah. And then switching. And we want to go little here, in part because we want to be able to notice subtlety. Is one hip dropping a little bit? You might put your hands on your hip bones if you want just a little more detailed information. And can you stabilize your hips without it being about your neck? Yeah. Would it feel good to extend your leg? You can extend the leg and flex through the heel. If you do that, have it the same height as the other thigh. So it's not going higher. Heel flexed. I see some pointed toes. Get those heels flexed. And can your toes be straight up? If you've got them to the outside, you're using different muscles. Check it out yourself. Intentionally take it to the outside. And then bring it back. Lovely. Come on back slowly. You might want knees to belly. That might feel good. Or some people feel like they need to straighten the legs. Whenever you get a body instinct, listen. Absolutely. All right. We're going to place the feet wide, like you're about to go into horse riding stance, but we're just going to slowly windshield wiper the legs. We're going to take the right leg down towards the center line of the mat. And we're going to stay on this side, but I'm going to have you do a little pulsing. So I'm going to have you lift your knee a little out of that deepest edge and then let it settle again. We're going to do that a few times. Noticing what's in that right hip, inner thigh. The head and face can be rolling, and letting it settle and reaching that right arm up and back. And now we're going to pulse with the right arm. So I'm going to relax my reach and then invigorate it and see if I can find a little extra space. Relax that reach and invigorate it. In your own time, you'll conclude that side through neutral. And we'll begin that same pulse through the knee. Left knee comes down. Release that a little and then anchor it down more. And you need to decide, how much active pressing do you want to do with the leg versus just going where gravity takes it. I like taking it through past gravity, and that extra activation really helps me experience some stretch and hip flexors, IT bands. As you're ready, we'll add the arm, reach, and relax and reach and invigorate. You can flex through the palm, you can be reaching through fingers, spread. Deep breath. And then slowly back to center. And then we're going to walk the soles of the feet together. Let them settle down into butterfly, the knees, I should say. And invite your shoulder blade wingtips to tuck in towards the spine with the palms rotating open. So it's a kind of a relaxed jet airplane pose. I love inviting that shape whenever we can, including when we're I'm standing. I'll do this because the majority of us, our shoulder heads are a little bit rotated forward, and boy, do we need that stretch through the front. As you're ready, let's turn this into a strengthening pose. Raise your hips just a little bit up off the floor. Yeah. I remember when I first started doing this exercise, you guys remember when you started, it was very difficult actually for me to communicate to those muscles that were working, that kind of deep inner thigh glute. It felt really weird. And now it just feels really like talking to an old friend, but it feels really centering, and it should, because these muscles you're connecting with are a huge part of your core strength and stability. So the muscles that allow you to root and to push or to pull, to fight or to flee. So we were talking about the body being the entry point for the emotions and the kind of spirit of who we are. When we're strong in these muscles, I think we feel safer as humans. I think we feel more able to enter into conflict or uncomfortable conversations. If we can, we'll hold for another 3-4 breaths. If that's too much, come out. Slow, deep and wide breaths should take us about 20 seconds, I hope. Breathing only through the nose and light connection, tip of the tongue. And when you feel complete, let the hips settle, let the knees settle again. Oh, and then straightening the legs out, we'll come into some abdominal pumping. Big inhale, get that big Buddha belly. Exhale, empty, hold out, and begin that pumping. Drawing the belly in as if to say, see how skinny I am? Pushing it towards the ceiling until you need to breathe. Do a couple more rounds. I find that slower is sometimes more intense or offers more intensity in a good way. what I'll often do in a slow version is I'll draw in and then I'll try to draw in more. And I can feel like I can bring things up kind of into my rib cage. And I often feel a stretch in the sternum or that the cervical spine. So stomach pumping actually gives us a lot of the moving of stagnation, if you will, that laughing and crying do. Anytime that stomach is moving like that, right? Isn't that cool? Yeah, when you've done 3, notice what would feel good. If you want to bring knees to belly, if you just want to lay and breathe a moment. I'm remembering that there was a video that came out a really long time ago when people were first starting to watch such things, you know, and it was of a father and a baby in the like in a high chair. It doesn't talk, I mean, even like really little, and all he had to do was go bing, bong, and each time the kid would just wail hilariously and he'd laugh. The cutest giggle chortle. I mean, you could not do it yourself. It was absolutely infectious. Bing, bong. So great. All right, friends, we're going to be coming up onto our hands and knees, all fours for cow cat. Cow cat, you know, it's easy to forget what a beautiful, useful pose this is. Whenever I do it, I'm like, oh, yeah. Intelligent hands, so fingers spread wide, and this is a chance to really ignite an anchoring through the inner part of thumb and index finger. Inhaling, tailbone draws back, heart draws forward. Is there more? Is there more? Exhaling, tuck the tailbone and really let it be like a wave that progressively takes the spine towards the ceiling and letting it. Inhaling, tailbone draws back, heart draws forward. And if you're really patient and you wait for the fullness of inhale, you'll feel a stretch through the ribs, chest. Exhaling again, tuck that tailbone, let it roll your cat back. It's funny, I often feel like bridge and cat back and all those are a little bit misnamed if you think about it. You can imagine them any, same thing with cow, they can all be either direction. The next time you're in cat back, hold, send your ribs to the left and look out over the right shoulder. And I'm even kind of leaning my hips to the left too. It feels really good. And then switching. Yeah, what are you finding in there? I often feel like it is a little bit of like an excavation. Oh yeah, who knew? All right, we're gonna come back to center and we haven't done this in a while. We're gonna be doing again, releasing one hand and one knee, etc., and eventually extending the limbs. But I just want to do hand and knee because I want you to be able to notice subtlety, right? We often go into compensation and don't realize it. So first, just check and see if you feel like you're in your core enough that you can clap your hands. I like the sound of that. So ever so slowly raise the right hand and left knee, and we're going to hold for a couple breaths, checking that we're not compensating or using the neck, that we're not sliding or collapsing through an elbow. Don't bend that elbow. And I'm not extending legs yet. Go ahead and switch. And now you're just lifting left hand and right knee and hovering, just barely hovering. Check with your neck. Check if you're compensating, and of course, breathe. All right, now I'll offer extension. When you're ready, release right hand, left knee, slowly extend, hold. I'm going to ask you to tuck your chin up into your throat and reach through the crown. So it's very similar to the fascia stretching we've been doing on our back in a way. And I want you to make sure your heel is vigorously flexed as much as possible. Toes are turned down versus out. And again, ask you, can you release your left hand from the floor? Come back slowly, all 4 limbs. Notice how peaceful it is when all 4 limbs are supporting you. All right, left hand, right knee, extend, tuck that chin and raise it up into the base of the skull. Breathe and notice if you dropped your chest at all, it's going to be very difficult to see if you could raise that right hand. And even if you're not getting all the way off, you can only do it for a second. Awesome. All right. Now that you kind of got where we're headed and what the alignments are, we're going to go back and forth. one breath at a time. If this is too much on your palms, remember you can go to fists. Otherwise, right here, inhale, extend, tuck that chin, draw your chest, take the limbs a little to the outside, and then exhale, return as slowly as you can. Inhaling left hand, right heel. Take it a little to the outside. And as you exhale, come back to center and slowly return limbs. And if you would do that a couple more times each side. What are you finding new this morning? What's it like to be you? I love this version of core strengthening in part because I don't tend to use my neck. I mean, you're using it to hold your head, but on my sit-ups, for example. All right, friends, we're gonna come right down onto forearms. Make sure again you're in your core before you step back to your forearm plank. And if you can't be on feet, of course, go to knees. We're gonna be doing just a little going in and out of a little arch one way and then back to forearm plank. So kind of like upward dog, but smaller. So as you're ready, inhaling, just let your hips settle a little and draw your heart forward a little. Make sure the legs are still straight. Exhale, return your hips to that neutral forearm plank. And we'll do that a couple more times. Very important is that you're squeezing your inner thighs as if you had a block there. If your heels rotate open, you feel weak, and all that pressure will go to your low back. Keep squeezing that imaginary block. So when you let your hips come a little down and your heart forward, the head comes forward a little bit too. And if you want to go all the way to the floor versus be suspended, that's fine. All right, and then we will go all the way to the floor. Take a moment, you might rock it. Could you guys feel how that really gets you into awareness of those front muscles? Yeah. And I want you to celebrate if in fact you notice that you were able to be strong there without compromising, without clenching the jaw, tightening the neck. Like to me, that's true resilient strength. All right, we're gonna do our jet airplane and I'm gonna ask you again to really emphasize your head position of elongating through the back of the neck with the chin drawing back, okay? Palms are facing the floor, fingers spread, shoulder heads make a couple of big circles until you can let the shoulder blades settle down the back, the shoulder heads as far off the floor as they can be. Anchoring to your pelvis. On the inhale, reach long through the head. And if it feels appropriate, let it bring you up into a little jet airplane, the chest lifting. Exhale and return. Good. See if you can emphasize any more chin tuck up into your throat. Beautiful. It's different, right? Yeah. This is a position that is actually really good for us, but a lot of us are very weak and we have, again, a lot of tension with our chin habitually jutting forward. Nice. As we do just a couple more in and out, see if you can think about rotating your thigh bones so they're straight towards the floor. And they might already be, by the way, but if you sense, oh yeah, I think my feet are rotating out, we want to adjust for that. Last one. Oh, marvelous. Relax. If your child's pose, let's go there, of course, but otherwise, you might just rock those hips, windshield wiper the legs. Sometimes it feels good to me too to circle the low legs. It can be kind of amazing. All right. I'm going to bring us into quadricep stretch. If the belly version does not work for you, you can go to standing. You could also be on your side. Some people's knees prefer that. If you're on your belly, please initiate the pose with one forearm across the front, anchor the pelvis, and then you can use that forearm to kind of raise the chest so that you can reach back for that ankle without kind of flailing. If you cannot reach it, however, stop, and we can use a strap if needed. Once you've got that ankle, go ahead and settle your forehead, flare those yoga toes, make sure the knee is not flared out. It wants to anchor back in so that it's directly down from the hip joint. Squeeze those glutes down and you deepen that stretch. And we're just gonna breathe into that for half a dozen breaths. And notice there's some resistance usually at the end of the inhale. We wanna breathe past that resistance. Speaking of resistance, before you come out, what would it feel like to press the ankle into your hand? And just notice that will ignite some different sensation in that quadricep. You might choose to do that a couple times. Ankle presses into hand and relaxes. And then as you're ready, we'll switch. Is this side different? Always a useful question. And sometimes it's just different today. As always, if you've got questions or you're needing any assistance, let me know. You guys look good. Breathe, notice, tune in. That is perhaps one of the greatest gifts of yoga. There's absolutely nothing to pay attention to but yourself. Tune in. Okay, you might have that little resistance, ankle pressing in the hand, softening. Then after release, if you would like, join me in bow pose. And again, if it does not work for you to, with relative ease, get a hold of that second ankle, stop and be happy to come and help with the strap. Once you got the ankles, please make sure to bring the knees back in like you're squeezing a block. Everyone with the shoulder heads be drawn back and in towards the side. And as you're ready, ankles press into hands, and it creates our little bow pose. Bow as in stringing a bow, like a bow archer bow. And you can kind of see that it's got that sort of tension about it. Just enjoy. Yeah. You're welcome. Great. When you're complete, child's pose might feel great. That's usually what I crave after that kind of a deep back bend. Knees go wide. Oh. And maybe the forehead is on the floor. Maybe you're supporting with your hands. Maybe your hands are all the way forward. How are your knees doing this morning, everybody? Pretty good. You look good. So we don't do this one very often, and sometimes it's because I know I've got people in the class who just simply cannot. And obviously, if this doesn't work for you, don't do it, and you won't be here long. But if you can, we're just going to do a brief stretch again through those quads and so on by being kneeling like so, bringing the hands behind, and then we're going to press the glutes towards the ceiling and relax. So this is another way to enjoy that stretch without being on your belly and bow, which not everyone likes. Nice. You can always add an arm reach. I love that. I get a really deep stretch through one side in particular, raising the hips and reaching for the ball behind, and then the other side. All right, and then we're going to come back to hands and knees, cow, cat. And as you're ready, use all that beautiful core awareness to send the hips up and back, downward dog, knees bent. And remember, you can give yourself more space. You can walk your feet back from your hands. And we're pedaling, pressing one heel at a time towards the floor. You can take the feet wide, going out into your bear. And then you can send those hips side to side. So this is your chance to play. And I recommend at some point, hold the heel as close to the floor as you can. We don't care if it ever gets there. And send in a deep breath. I love feeling how that blooms the stretch. Yeah, and the other side. Nice. We're gonna take the right leg flying. So I'm gonna recommend you bring your feet back in. If this is too much, go to table. Slowly take that right leg flying. On the exhale, you're gonna bring it forward like you're bringing your knee in towards your chest or towards your elbow. And then inhale up again. We'll just do that Twice more. The last time, we're gonna bring that foot forward and all the way to the outside. So I've got it outside of my hand. Okay, good. Now, I want you to check and see what's happening in your hips. Sometimes people's like right hip will way out. I don't want that. I want that right hip bone drawing back, left hip bone drawing forward. This should make you feel strong, and we're gonna test it. So you're gonna raise your hips a little bit. You can see I'm almost like in like a runner's, like at the start of a race in the Olympics, right? Nice core support. You can always use your hands if you need to, but otherwise see if you can open those arms, fly straight side, and slowly lift and just leg. Chin tucks, nice and back of the neck, and slowly release, step back down facing. Down for your first one of the day, maybe forever. Inhaling cobra. Maybe you blossom it to upward facing dog. I love that front body stretch. And pressing back and downward facing dog. Go ahead and enjoy a side or two, whatever comes to you. All right. When you're ready, left leg flying. Yeah, what's happening in that butt? Let it work for you. And now the core work too. Here we go. Left knee coming forward. Neck is soft, tongue is soft. And I want to get that knee like as far forward, kind of up into me as I can. Last time. And that foot forward and right out that edge of the mat. And now we play again with steering the hip bones. If you're not sure, do the wrong thing. Send your left hip out to the side and you'll feel how the hip bone comes forward. And it just feels awkward and you don't feel very strong. Draw it back and bring that right hip bone forward and you should feel pretty strong. Nice long neck. Come into that glider plane. A lot of us will be feeling a lot of work in that left butt cheek. Great. We're weak there. If you feel sore there tomorrow, you're welcome. I love you. One more big inhale, slow, deep, wide. Exhaling, release. Core support, step back down the facing dog. One more invitation to hold, rest, or flow. And you might be going through dog series, some version. Some people just like up dog, down dog. Chaturanga can be challenging for people's shoulders, especially if you don't have all the strength. Nervous. And then we're going to pop onto our butt. Well, butts. We have more than one together. When I was talking about, self-massage as a nice entry point, and so I wanted to just offer a little bit, and obviously go wherever you find yourself inspired. But we're doing what we call the lymph rub, and it is good for moving lymph in the body. It's also, I find really, really great. A lot of people have been struggling with plantar fasciitis, and a lot of that comes from tension in the calves and the hamstrings and up into the upper leg. So we're going to kind of get into the back of the calf as well. First, we're going to start with our thumb just down from the bone of the shin, so just to the inside of that. Nice core support. We're not hunching over our rear. We're going to breathe, and I kind of apply pressure by sort of pulsing or hinging at my hips. And usually as we journey along, there's some zingy spots. And so I usually kind of take my thumbs and I rub down the back on the way back down. And then I'm going to be putting the thumb in the same location, but I'm going to hold and I'm going to be rotating downward. So I'm actually almost like pushing the calf muscle a little down and away from the shin bone. Does that make sense? Yeah, it can feel kind of intense, a little sharp, a little stinging. And so I just progressively make my way up. Yeah, and if there's any spots along the way that you're like, oh, hello, I need to talk to you some more, you can go back and you can use your thumbs or your hands and circle or what have you. We're gonna then come into this position with the feet flat. Again, I'm on my sit bones. I'm using my core to make sure that I'm not hunched back and shoulders down, no wings, no shrugs. I'm gonna tuck my hands so that my fingertips are kind of squeezed together. That makes them strong. And I'm gonna do scrubbing up the back. So it's I always say you basically you pin a place with your fingers like, oof, and then you go, it's a scrubbing. Go pin it and up and down. That makes sense? Good. And again, the whole line itself may not be fabulous, but there might be a spot or two where you're like, ooh, 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 ooh. I know a lot of people struggle also with calf cramps more as the aging, and obviously you want to look at things like, you know, what are your mineral levels, magnesium, and all of that kind of stuff. Hydration is important, on and on. But especially if people are kind of hinging forward a little as they walk, their stride is going to be very short, and they won't get the natural pumping and movement that you're supposed to get through the calves. So these are some nice things too that you could show if you have older people in your life and you recognize are actually not as mobile. You could even do this for them. And then I'm gonna my legs stretch out and just go to whack. All right, we are then gonna come into some hip stretches. So we'll be doing a pigeon when we come down, but one of my absolute favorites, and you can do this laying down as well if you don't want to be on the hand, but I'll show it to you, is you're gonna take your elbow inside one knee, put your middle and index finger through the big toe. And you can have that other leg however you want, be up on your foot, down on your side. But it's the ability to play with straightening and half straddle, right? And we often do that on our back. But one of the things that I like about doing it seated is you can really play with ranges of motion and how the body responds. It's just more organic. And then when you find a place that's really good, hang out there, breathe. And then we're gonna invite that foot across to the outside of the other thigh. And this is that hero pose. We haven't done it in a long time, and we don't need to get to the full hero pose. Hero pose would be where my top knee is coming over my lower knee and settling down onto it. And you can encourage a little bit of that. Careful, any knee instability, low back people. But my favorite thing to do, rather than laying it down, is to do almost like a reclined pigeon, but this is seated. Is I squeeze my thigh towards the chest and my chest towards the thigh. Yeah, I think I've seen somebody using, if you want to take like your left elbow around your right knee, that might have a nice dimension. Yes, and some people might turn this into a seated spinal twist, which I'm seeing out there where you'd be upright and rotating to the right. And of course, you can notice if that right hip is lifted, you know, what does it feel like to settle it back towards the floor? Some of you who already have your on the floor, like, what do you mean? When as you're ready to come out, just enjoy the release, give this leg whatever it might want, and we'll switch it up. And I love this version, you know, you can do this if you're watching a movie or something, hanging out on the floor. The people in your household, feel like you're just jealous. You could do it too. So you want the same, yeah, same hand, same leg. There you go. Boy, I was gonna say, maybe make it harder on yourself. So, you know, noticing, is it much easier or difficult to get one leg straight than the other? And then is there a particular spot that feels great, and just hold there? Send a couple deep breaths. In your own time, coming back up enough to bring it across. What is it like to try and resettle the left hip? Again, noticing differences. You know, often we don't know what to make of those differences. That's okay. Like I say, it's part of the clue trail. Again, maybe you want to hug that knee towards the chest, bring the chest towards the knee, maybe wrap the right elbow around the left knee. I like the dimension of stretch that brings through the ribs and the intercostals and so on. And again, if you prefer to be doing this in a typical or more traditional spine twist, you can. Slowly come out. And I'm going to take both legs out into a straddle. Just flex, point, rotate, circle, etc. We're going to come down onto our back bodies, and I'm going to invite you to make a happy baby. So if you know having a strap for that is helpful. Otherwise, my favorite version personally is again, big toe, middle and index finger between big and second toe. But we want to be able to make this stretch without the hips coming off the floor. Sometimes people roll way up onto their spine. And actually, I want a whole back anchor. So there's no rolling like that. And then we anchor down firmly, drawing the knees towards the floor. No wings, no struggle. And I invite you to apply a few really deep breaths. And then an invitation to bring both feet together in butterfly at the butt. Flexing the feet here is a nice way to stabilize through the ankle. And if you can, bring one foot higher up the belly, and it might roll you to the outside, and then the others. And then we'll go back and forth. It's just a nice range of motion. And I'm hoping you can feel some wonderful communications up the kind of the joint, the kinetic chain, ankles, knees, hips. Then we're going to do a final expression of bridge pose. I often say that your shavasana, and in this case, we're also meditating, but is only as good as your final pose as far as like holding and strength and breathing into the edge. If you prefer to do it in forearm plank or something else, you could. But as you're ready, either block or no block between thighs, all four corners of the feet anchoring, raise the hips. Some of you might want jet airplane arms, again, shoulder blades leaning in, upper arms anchoring, or intertwining yoga mudra. Then if you can, please think about sending your hands towards your heels, your heart up and back. Beautiful. Keep sending the knees away from you, the hips up, squeezing that imaginary block if you don't have one. And this is your chance to communicate deeply with yourself about your edge. Where am I at? Intensity means you're getting there. If it feels like it's painful or you feel unsafe, that means you're going past your edge. We don't want that. Just deep, deep breath. And slowly, slowly down. Sorry, louder than expected. Knees to belly or whatever feels good. Lovely. And then we're going to create a seated position for meditation, which if there just is not one that works for you, feel free to do it laying down, standing, whatever. But again, you can be seated on a bench, an ottoman. This often what I was using at home when I was having a sprained ankle that did not like anything else I did. Sometimes seated in a straddle could be lovely, and especially if you feel like you're kind of tilting back, you just go up against a wall, that can be nice. One of the things that we're really looking for in our meditation pose is the ability for a broadening across the front. So if you feel the need to kind of hold, that won't work well, right? So if your hands are here, say on your knees or lap, see if you can kind of rotate the palms open so it just enhances that sense of broadening through the front. So I'm gonna ask you to tune in and just scan your body. Let's see. If there's anything else. Well, it's adjusted. Yeah, and thank you for remembering about those. I had talked about this in a previous session, the value that if, when you have your legs crossed, if there's any kind of tension like to the outside of the hip, that sometimes tucking a folded blanket or block or something underneath can be really nice. All right, so we're gonna tune in for about 5 minutes. And get us, so one of the things that I did when I was really trying to anchor into frequent meditation and specific 5 minutes is I found tracks of music that were that length and that I liked, and I would just then play them over and over again. So as we're ready, rooting and rising, sits bones to crown. Invite that chin to just lightly draw back until you sense the neck is in total ease. Light connection to the tongue, roof of the mouth, and the rest of the face and mouth soft. As you root and rise through the spine, you might even sense all the skin and muscle of the back just sliding down. And now we tune into breath, observing the rising and settling breath with the gap between. Following the bowl a couple of times to remind you to tune into that. It worked. They laughed. It's really kind of a rude way to bring you up a meditation, but I kind of couldn't resist because, sometimes it's things that surprise you, right? That crack you up. So there you have it. I'm going to invite you to close your practice with just a little bit of time on your back because that'll feel good. And to do the support for the bra strap right here. So whether it's a rolled up blanket, etc. Grab a couple per option. Sometimes it feels fine having a block under the ribs. You've got something up under your head. Okay. Anybody else that think, "Well, if I just had something under my head, this would be better," or if I had something smaller under my back? Is it? So this pose, like the one that we began with the support under the sacral triangle, allows for an opening of the front body. But very specifically, I'm just going to talk through this a moment. This is such an important dynamic to understand in our bodies that when our shoulder head is rotated a little forward, our trapezius muscle, that most people complain about being tight and sore, has no choice but to activate. And one of the only ways to release it is to then get the shoulder head back and down where there's that broadening I was talking about through the front. And in this position, you can maybe even think about the wingtips of the shoulder blades kind of tucking into the body. And in that position, as you, for example, roll your head side to side, or as you take one arm at a time and reach for the wall behind the head and pulse in and out, you start to feel mobility available in the chest, the upper back, and so on. And I encourage you to breathe and just explore as much of that as you'd like over the next few minutes. And if you're interested in a little self massage, you could simply take your right hand up and behind and kind of pinch the trapezius muscle there. And then you can do the same with the left. If you don't have the flexibility to do same hand, same side, sometimes people will cross over and then use those kind of fingers to the palm to squeeze. At some point, inviting you to simply turn in towards the breath. Let your body sink and settle. Let all of that healing energy you've cultivated go to where you need it the most. Please become lightly aware. Excuse me, of my sneeze, of my voice. And inviting you to bring your palms together and create a brisk rub. And igniting some heat. And with that heat, the option of either placing the hands directly on your face or body, or held off the surface, maybe 10, 12 inches out in your energy field. Affirming wholeness, affirming goodness, affirming peace. Shanti, shanti, shanti. If you feel inspired, you might then move into a little more self-massage, maybe the temples and around the jaw, maybe at the base of the skull. What would feel good? And before you come fully back into the river of life that's waiting for you out there, I'd love you to just ask yourself that question we started with. Like what are your best tools for helping jump you out of a place of systemic stress or bring you more into a place of peace, joy, etc. Please enjoy that meditative experience. Take all the time you like with it. I thank you so much for being here. Looking forward to seeing you again at the mat. Om Shanti Shanti. Om peace, peace. Namaste.